On January 8th of this year, I had the honor of joining General Mike Flynn and thousands of Pennsylvania patriots in person in Gettysburg, as well as many online, who all stood up in a massive show of support for Senator Doug Mastriano and his official announcement of his candidacy for Pennsylvania governor. We live streamed the event on our channel. I know many of you saw it and gave some wonderful comments. It was an amazing several hours of celebration of faith and family and freedom. And Senator Doug is here with us today to talk about his candidacy and what it means for the future of Pennsylvania. So, future Gov, Doug Mastriano, great to have you with us back on the show. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for being there. It was a special treat to have you there. And I don't say that just off the cuff, because you've been actually ahead of seeing, almost prophetically, this trail of popularism in Pennsylvania and around the world, actually, when you were also tracking what Nigel Farage was doing with the EU separation, the Brexit movement there. Yes. And you really had your hands on the pulse of this movement here. And we're seeing it come to fruition right here in my campaign.
It is. It's so beautiful. It's so heartwarming for me to see it as well, just being a little bit of a, sort of a armchair pundit and all this. It's really cool to come out on January 8th and actually, breathe in the dust of it. It was so cool. And I got to tell you, it was an amazing Saturday. We were talking about this earlier, and people on the channel know I spoke at the American Freedom Tour in Jacksonville a couple of months back, and that drew the likes of Donald Trump Jr. and Kayleigh McEnany, Dinesh D'Souza. Gang, I got to say, it was the same audience count, about 1,400 or so, that came out to see Senator Doug and his announcement. That's astonishing that you're able to draw that kind of numbers. And I have this article here. I would recommend people to check it out. It's on PennLive.com. It came out just a few days after Doug announced his candidacy. And here's the headline: "Don't be surprised if Doug Mastriano wins the Republican nomination for governor." He didn't sound too happy, quite frankly, about that being in the mainstream media there. But I mean, his basic argument was that the field is so crowded for the Republican nomination among all these would-be gubernatorial candidates that they're more or less, because they're all coming from more or less the same establishment, mainstream stripe, they're going to be canceling themselves out. Really, Doug, I know you know this article. What is it that you think separates you from the pack in this election here?
It's what brought us together, actually, Steve. It's been in this fight for the past couple of years for our basic freedoms and not standing aside as all the other guys that are running. They did very little, if anything, to help the people and the suffering, the shutdowns, the uncertainty, sticking my neck out in so many areas and taking the shots, which was not a pleasant experience. But, I'm a soldier and I love my country. So the bottom line is what separates me is I've been doing, not talking. And it's a bit insulting for somebody like me who's stuck it out there for the past couple of years. In every regard, I was warned it's a bad idea. Don't take on Wolf. He's too popular. He was at 65% popularity when I started taking him on during the shutdown. And some people said it is hyperbole, and I'm not quoting it for myself. But they say you single-handedly brought him down to 40s and 30s. I mean, that's not true. It's actually his policies that brought him down.
Right.
But
right.
Of course, I focus on highlighting his failings in that regard. But the insulting part, of course, is having 15, 16 people now with the gubernatorial race, come crawling out of their foxholes after the fighting's over and start beating your chest. I promise, I will, I pledge. And I'm like, what have you done? It sure would have been nice to have your help when the fighting was going on.
That's right. Yeah. And that also reminds me of another Republican nomination year when you had 14 or 15 of the establishment's finest coming out. And then you had this guy from outside come in and demolish the rest of them. So what ultimately, if you could boil it down to one thing, what pushed you to run for governor? I know we had talked to you a lot leading up to this. You were thinking about this and praying about this for some time. Is there one thing that really made the difference for you?
I would say it's one mass thing, the people. It was one of our friends had this dream, and I think it really does capture where we were. And there's Josh Shapiro, the heir apparent for the Democrat Party, in the boxing ring, and thinking that he's going to be the champion. And the people are out, the people of Pennsylvania, the common people, are shouting for me to get into the ring. And I'm kind of standing there, like, thinking about it. And finally, the people of Pennsylvania gets just so impatient, they grab me and throw me into the ring. And I'm already beaten up. And apparently I'm beaten up already by the media and by, other things out there that are against conservatism. And I hop into the ring, and Josh Shapiro is doing all these fancy moves around me. And then, and then in one punch, it's a KO, and I win.
I love
but
it.
That dream really captures, I think, the movement. The people really propelled Rebbe and I forward into this. They want their freedoms protected. They want their lives back. And they want somebody who's going to be a fighter. So as I said on your program a few weeks ago, if you want to have a Ron DeSantis of Pennsylvania, I'm your guy, and I'll make him look like an amateur.
Oh, that's so cool. You mentioned that in your speech on Saturday. It was a captivating line. You said something akin to, I want to make Pennsylvania the Florida of the Northeast, right? Yes. Can you explain that? Can you expound on that a bit?
If you think about, Ron DeSantis, and what a difference a good governor makes, and even the controversies around, Kristi Noem, she's done a decent job with South Dakota and making South Dakota look attractive, and that's quite astounding to me for somebody who doesn't like the cold climates. But Florida, they tourism, and it's a beacon of light. And Ron DeSantis has done at a state level what I've done here in Pennsylvania, stuck his neck out and draw the shops, and he's made the right call. The people should have the power. You think about Pennsylvania, if we had a governor as strong as Ron DeSantis here, we could just turn this country around. Because you think about it, Florida's not an energy producer. Pennsylvania, we have enough natural gas and other resources here to actually fuel a good chunk of the United States for a couple centuries, according to recent studies with the Marcellus Shale and what have you. If we can unleash that potential of having Pennsylvania open for business, a place where people come, as medical refugees or refugees for freedom from around Canada and the United States, coming here, opening their businesses, we could power this nation. We could drive energy costs down. We could strengthen our alliances by actually exporting our fuel to Lithuania and the other countries that are allies out towards Russia. And we could be a beacon of hope. Pennsylvania, we've forgotten who we are. We are the Keystone State. That's the stone that holds all the other stones together, as Mike Flynn described to us, right? And it does feel like the stone's on the ground. It's time that we reassert our position here. And we could be a gateway to New England, which has suffered so much, in many ways from failed policies. And just to realize that the hope of this nation was founded here in 1776, and to reignite that hope of freedom. One last thought. I do believe that freedom around the world is suffering is because the United States is not leading in that cause anymore. And you see, the heavy-handed rules from Biden and from Wolf and other governors. I do believe if we had an example like Florida in Pennsylvania, this beacon of hope and freedom would be reignited around the world.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I mean, and being a New Englander, growing up in Connecticut, now living in Delaware, just 20 minutes away from Biden's basement, as I like to say. It's so funny because, we talk about relocating. We're kind of tired of blue states and living in there. And I've talked with New Englanders ad nauseum on this. We'd love to relocate, but we love, our life in the Northeast. We love the change of seasons. We love just the ethos of this area. But there's no red alternative. And so I remember when you say you wanted to make Pennsylvania the Florida of the Northeast. I mean, that resonated with me so much when you said that. I'm like, so I don't have to go off to the jungle into Florida with palm tree. I remember my wife even saying, I hate palm trees. I don't want to be around palm trees. We love the Northeast, and we don't want to have to leave just because the politics is so bad. So I don't know. You captured my moral imagination when you used that phrase so beautifully. And I know I'm not alone in that. Actually, we were just talking with Torba, the founder of Gab, who is in Pennsylvania. He lives around the Scranton area, the social media platform Gab, and when I told him that's what your vision was, I mean, you could just see his eyes light up, going, "That's perfect. That'd be great. A Florida in the Northeast." So there you go, for what it's worth, right? Can you expound for us a little bit? I mean, you have butted heads, obviously, with what we affectionately refer to as Rhinos, Republicans in name only, in a number of your battles, particularly the push for election integrity and the like. You have the battle scars to show for it, that's for sure. In your view, just from where you are and from even just talking with people, what is the fundamental difference between a Rhino, again, generally speaking, and this Patriot renewal that's going on in the Republican Party, particularly in Pennsylvania? What's the difference between those two kinds of Republicans today?
It is very stark, as you've been delineating over the past few years. On the one side, the Rhinos represent mediocrity, status quo, don't rock the boat, no hard votes, be very careful and deliberate, reach across the aisle, but the Democrats will win more than we get. That's their idea, bipartisanship there. And we're always like kind of just holding and defending a little bit of land, and Democrats get a little bit more each time. On our side here, it's like, no, we want to reassert our rights and freedoms. We want to walk as free men and women. We want to live our lives as we see fit. We want to raise our families and teach them our ideals and not to be indoctrinated. And it's really restoring freedom. That's what it's all about, putting the power back in the hands of the people. And Steve, you've seen the crowds we draw. Sometimes folks will come to the rallies who obviously don't agree with my personal beliefs, what have you, but yet they support me. And I'll ask them, so I know we differ quite a bit in our worldviews. I'm just curious, how could you get behind somebody like me? Because according to the media, I'd be your foe, which I'm not. Right. And they say, yeah, I know we disagree, but all I know about is you're about individual freedom, and you're not going to tell me how to live my life. And I'm like, wow, it's that simple.
Right. Wow. Yeah, and the latest Gallup poll on voter affiliation, I'm sure you saw that came out. Was it this week or last week? With this massive shift in voter affiliation, the biggest shift they've seen in a generation, 25 years. Now, Republican voter identification outnumbers Democrat by 5 points. Democrats went down 7, Republicans gained 7 in 1 year. Are we seeing a red wave like we've never seen before on the horizon here? I mean, obviously they're not shifting over to the Republicans because of Rhinos who try to look almost undifferentiated from Democrats. They really see something different going on among Republicans, particularly at state levels. Are you seeing some kind of shift like that as well in Pennsylvania? And do you see a red wave coming on the horizon like we haven't seen in some time?
We do, and our movement is really a personification of that, and that's just the thing. And for John Baer to write that article from Penn Live, don't have a lot of fans in the traditional media. He's one of the better ones, though. He's one of the old school journalists that actually tries to be fair, and I do appreciate him and a few others that do that. But I'm glad he's able to see what the rest of us see here. The people of Pennsylvania are rising up, and there's a large core of people behind us here, and it's not a passing relationship. We've been in this fight together for several years with the fireside chats, the Where is Wolves, the Reopen rallies, the freedom rallies, the voting integrity rallies. And it's like the Democrats are so overstepped. And I think what happened this week with Starbucks is telling.
Right.
Probably the chief of wokeness, Starbucks. And so, but they decided because of the ruling by the Supreme Court not to compel their employees to get vaccinations. Now their own people want to boycott them because of this decision of just giving the power back to the people per the Supreme Court's decision. And that's how far the left, the radical left has gone, where they've alienated so many segments of the society. So we're seeing, Latino Americans, African Americans migrating over to the Republican Party now. And that's supposed to be the groups the Democrats self-proclaimed to be champions of.
Right. Yeah. That sort of multicultural coalition is starting to unravel on them, and we're the actual multiculturalists over here, bound together by freedom and dignity and faith. How do you think the recent elections in Virginia, New Jersey, and of course they touched Pennsylvania, particularly with the school boards, Patriots, 70% of Patriots, I think it's the Project 1776 or 1776 Project, 70% of their candidates won in school boards across Pennsildania. How do you think those elections could be bellwethers for what to expect in 2018? 2018. Listen to me. I'm on different time. 2022.
So first off, New Jersey. I mean, it looked like the Republican won, and of course, I hate the next day, Bergen County finds 18,000 ballots. We were 100%, but we found 18,000, and they all go for the Democrat.
No, what do you know?
But that was close. And then Virginia, and I think we have a lot to learn from Virginia. And so Pennsylvanians, I know we didn't get done what I wanted to do in Pennsylvania with an audit, a forensic investigation. I know it got shut down by the establishment, but there is hope. And Virginia has its problems. They got out with a three-prong approach. The people got out and voted. They had poll watchers, they had lawyers, and they had the people turn out en masse. And Democrats, they couldn't overplay their hand because they already did in 2020. They're being watched. Right. Youngkin was not the establishment choice. They had several other people picked before him. And so thus is the case in Pennsylvania. Obviously, the establishment and the big foundations throwing money around, they will not get behind me because for some reason, they're afraid of a candidate that's of the people. I really can't get my mind around this, Steve, why these folks that, get donations from folks and corporations, what have you, are afraid of a populist sort of person who loves freedom and is going to fight for them, unlike anyone else they're going to back. But just like Youngkin, in the end, he was able to get ahead with the people. And so we do have that advantage that we do have the voice of the people. We have the biggest reach in the state. I checked all the social media platforms that Youngkin was using the day he won election in November. And in that, I'm sure now he's ahead because he's governor. But in that moment of time, I had massively more people on my platforms than he did winning that race. That's just a small indicator. I know it's not the be all end all. I know not everybody's on social media, but it shows you how vast our reach is. God's really blessed us with this reach, but by being faithful and fighting for the people constantly and not just sitting around pontificating or disappearing and going on vacation and what have you, but always being out there trying to help the people.
Yeah, and we saw it on the 8th. I mean, people came out in mass to support you. So clearly, and then you're tapping into it's so neat is all the different movements that have popped up. So the Patriot movement, Tabitha was there. She gave a great speech. I was with Tabitha right before that. We were talking, and I'm like, and I've got all my notes, Doug. we're the consummate library guys. I've got all my notes set up and everything, and I'm like, so what are you going to talk about? And she's like, I don't know, whatever the Lord lays on my heart. I'm like, how do you do that?
I love it.
Isn't it wonderful that she gives this great fiery speech? I'm like, oh man, I got to follow that, But so we were with Free Pennsylvania. I know Audit the Vote is there. I mean, there's all of these freedom-based, patriot-based organizations in Pennsylvania. They were all there, and they were all there saying Doug Mastriano is our guy. And it really does seem like the network society, the social media does provide some connective tissue there for common instantaneous communication. It's really impressive. And I think you could start redefining elections here and campaigns with that kind of social media presence. We talked real quick the last time we were together about the Philadelphia Inquirer referred to as sort of the new political center, the new political driver's seat. And that was white women without college degrees. And that came from the exit polls in Virginia. 75% of women without college degrees voted for Youngkin, and they made up a massive portion of the voting population. That also included, 55% Latinos voting with him as well as black men are disproportionately now voting in the Patriot direction. So are you seeing something similar here, a comparable coalition in Pennsylvania, along with the same kind of makeup of Wisconsin and Iowa and Michigan, which was once a blue wall, but now seems to be turning massively to the Patriot side of politics, being led by women without college degrees? Are you seeing a similar makeup in your demographics there who are supporting your candidacy?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm obviously able to reflect and go through my own statistics. And Facebook has good algorithms so you can actually track the gender and the age, not the education, of course, of these folks. But I've always been kind of interested, Steve, because I constantly look at my demographics to see where I'm reaching. And my strongest I have, of course, my campaign page was about 100,000 on Facebook, and my Senate page 202,000. And on my campaign page, it's 60% females.
Wow.
In the age bracket of 50 and 60 years old. On my Senate page, it's 60.2% females, wow, in largely 30 and 40 and 50 age group. So I do believe we have the soccer moms, all the moms and single females you mentioned, or married ladies. I've been watching this trend on my social media for the past several years, actually. And I thought it was odd because for a while there was like 50-50, half men and half female. And then the ladies have really taken over. And we saw much of that, obviously, with Audit the Vote, and Tabitha below and many others that spoke on the stage there. We do see a rising movement in this nation that happened in Virginia. And I think on May 17th in Pennsylvania, we're going to see it happen here. That they're going to propel me forward as their representative and their voice to restore freedom for them and their families.
Oh my, that's almost like, would that be a year or 2 year anniversary to the referendum? Wasn't the referendum May 18th, if I recall?
Yes.
That stripped the governor of his emergency powers. First state in the union to do that. Again, to me, that's very much a bellwether, it seems to me, of what we could expect in this midterm year. This is awesome. Also, another thing, the Republicans in Virginia were called the parent party by one Obama advisor who was panicking over that because of the CRT issue and the like. The Democrats, parents felt like Democrats weren't listening to them anymore. They were listening to the teachers' unions instead. So they felt that the Republicans under Youngkin were the party that they can go to that can hear their concerns. And I have to say, Doug, that on your social media presence, it just statewide and even nationally, but then also just watching you work on the streets, as it were, you have this tremendous sense of embodying the concerns of the people. People, when they're around you, feel like they're heard, and therefore they feel that when they're around you, they have a representative, not a ruler. Where Wolf comes across as a ruler, you come across as a representative of their values, and I just think that's such a strength of yours. Where can people go to support your campaign and just follow you throughout?
Thank you. So our webpage is dougforgov.com. So dougforgov.com. Pretty simple. That last name is hard to get around, so that's how we got around it, Mastriano. And then, of course, on social media, Senator Doug Mastriano for my official business, and then Fighting for Freedom, Doug Mastriano Fighting for Freedom, and likewise on Twitter and all the other platforms. I think we have a presence on just about everything about now.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful. Doug, thanks so much. We're going to have you back soon. Just keep regular tabs on how things are going and how we can pray for you and how we can help you in any way. But thank you so much for your faithfulness. We're praying for you. We just can't wait to see what the future holds.
Thank you. And our motto, as we wrap it up appropriately, is John 8:36. It's about freedom. So if Jesus set you free, you're free indeed. And our goal is restoring freedom to Pennsylvania, and so that you could live your lives as you see fit. Thank you, my friend, for having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you, Doug. Thank you so much.